you please state your name and age for the court?
Yes, my name is Cody Grant, and I'm 17.
And where do you attend school?
I attend school at Truman High School.
Now, Miss Grant, what grade are you in?
I am currently a junior.
Now, Miss Grant, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I came to Truman High School my freshman year, which was 2 years ago, and I excel in science, which explains why I took advanced chemistry.
All right, thank you, Miss Grant. Now, let's go into a little bit of background. Do you know Chris Hall and Taylor Jennings?
I do. They're students in my advanced chemistry class.
And who is Chris Hall?
Chris Hall is a friend of mine, and she has been for 3 years.
Now, what is your relationship with Chris Hall?
Chris Hall, again, is a friend of mine, and we have been classmates for 2 years.
And what about Taylor Jennings?
Taylor Jennings is also a classmate of mine, and I'm also friends with her.
So now, Cody, as you and Taylor are good friends, how often do you all hang out?
I see Taylor every day in my advanced chemistry class, and I hang out with her sometimes after school to study, and also we have some of the same extracurricular activities.
And you, so as you know, both Taylor Jennings and Cody Hall, you are good friends?
Yes, Chris Hall.
Okay. And now, Miss Grant, what was the relationship between Taylor Jennings and Chris Hall?
Chris Hall and Taylor Jennings were friends, but they did have a rivalry for valedictorian at some times.
Now, was one ever ahead of the other in the valedictorian race?
No.
Now, Miss Grant, did you ever discuss scores on the ACT with Chris or Taylor?
Yes, we did, considering they were tied for valedictorian.
Now, were you aware of their scores?
I was. I was aware that they both had gotten 33s on the ACTs.
Now, how did this affect the valedictorian race?
This meant that since they were tied for GPA and for ACT scores, that it was up to the principal, Kelly Norris.
Now, did you ever get involved in their rivalry?
I did. At one point, I had told Taylor Jennings that Chris had gotten a 35 on the ACT.
Now, how did you feel about giving Taylor this false statement?
Well, at first, I really felt like she deserved it because she was always bragging about being first in class. But after I saw how she reacted and how she kind of went insane, I really felt bad about it because I understood how much it meant to her.
But, Miss Grant, why did you do it?
I did it because I, at first, thought it would be funny, and also because Chris Hall asked me to.
So, how did Taylor Jennings feel about this false score?
Taylor Jennings, she really went insane. She asked me 4 times if I was sure if I was right. And at that point, I understood that it really meant a lot to her.
Now, let's return to your relationship with Chris Hall. How often do you see Chris Hall?
I see Chris Hall every day in our advanced chemistry class, and again, we have some of the same extracurriculars, just as I and Taylor Jennings do.
Okay. And so, have you noticed anything different about Chris Hall recently, then?
No, she's been the same old Chris I've always known.
Did Chris seem to be more irritable or nervous than usual?
No, and I found that surprising considering she was running for valedictorian. Both her and Taylor Jennings were under an immense amount of stress.
Now, did you notice anything different concerning her restlessness or energy levels?
No, I did not.
All right, now let's return to the morning of February 28th, 2011. Can you tell us what exactly happened that morning?
That morning, we were in our advanced chemistry class. We were working on a sheep cloning experiment.
Now, just to get this correct, you said that Taylor Jennings and Chris Hall were both in your chemistry class, right?
Yes, both students were.
Now, were Taylor and Chris where were they sitting during instruction?
During instruction, they were both sitting at their lab tables, and as demonstrated on an exhibit earlier, one was sitting at the far left and one was sitting at the far right.
Your Honor, may I get that exhibit and put it up so the witness can see it? All right. Now, Ms. Grant, is this a fair and accurate representation of your classroom?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, besides the size of the desks, they're a little bit off.
Now, at the beginning of class, where do people sit?
At the beginning of class, after the bell is rung, if we're doing a lab, we are to sit at our lab tables during instruction.
Now, as it has been previously noted on this, is this where you were sitting?
Yes, it was.
And was this where Taylor Jennings was sitting?
Yes.
And was that where Chris Hall was sitting?
Yes.
All right, so you were all sitting at the lab tables during instruction, weren't you?
Yes, immediately when the bell rings, if we are having a lab, we are to sit at our lab tables and not at our desks.
Now, did anyone get up during lab instruction?
Not at all.
All right. Now, Ms. Grant, can you tell us what happened after you had finished instruction?
After Ms. Devaney had finished instruction, we had begun working on our labs, and I saw Taylor Jennings get up and go to her desk.
Okay. Now, Ms. Grant, after the instructions, it's all right to move around then?
Yes, Ms. Devaney allows us to move around because we are working with the lab and we need to ask questions and maybe get supplies.
Okay. Now, as you had just previously stated, was there anything out of the ordinary happening in this period?
Yes, Taylor Jennings got out from her lab table and went to her desk to ruffle around in her backpack.
Now, why was this noticeable to you then?
It was noticeable because of the fact that Taylor Jennings normally takes school very seriously and is very focused on her work, and this lab was a very big part of our final grade, so it was odd to see her spend so much time at her desk.
Of course. course. Now, Miss Grant, going back to where she was moving, would you say she was about in this area?
Yes, she was between her desk and Chris Hall's desk.
Now, about how long was she in this general vicinity of that?
At least a minute.
Now, what did you see her doing in that area for almost a minute?
I saw her ruffling around in a dark-colored backpack on the floor between their desks.
Now, what did you see her doing exactly with that backpack?
I saw her either placing something in or taking something out of a backpack that was about the size of a D battery or maybe a film canister.
So now, Miss Grant, what exactly did you see her taking out or putting in of that backpack?
A dark-colored object with maybe a gray top the size of a D battery or a film canister.
All right, Miss Grant. Now, excuse me. Now, you had seen her, so looking back at that, she was over there for almost a minute?
Yes, almost a minute.
All right, thank you, Miss Grant. No further questions?